Good noon to you. On this very last day of February, I'm Ellen O'Shaughnessy, coordinator of Conversations and Coffee, and celebrating the 15th birthday of my granddaughter, who was born this very day, February 28th, and with bated breath, we said, Danielle, hurry up, we don't want you to be a leap year baby. And so I just texted her this morning and she said, yay, Gammy, yay. And so as we come together, we celebrate Renaissance, new birth. What a gift. Betty J. Stahl has been to us in the spirit of new birth and Renaissance. Harlem Renaissance. Very meaningful for me because I worked in Harlem for 6 years, and whenever I see Harlem, the people, the place, what a joy in my life. And I know you continue to celebrate this joy, Betty. We are so grateful. You as curator. Now, curator is something Betty knows about. She spent her life curating, facilitating. Even though as an artist she was continually making jewelry, she was always making possible the art for others. And that included the 30 years she worked for Recreation and Parks and worked with children, with facilitating other people's masterpieces. And we continue that spirit today. The masterpieces of Tauz Murphy's work that we have with us, and the artists whose work surround us. Betty says, I too sing America in the spirit of Renaissance, new birth. So we thank you, Betty, and we want to hear from you what this means to you. You have known Tauz since he was born and facilitated his life through his father who taught. Your father taught, in a facility, Rec and Parks facility, in what, is it painting?
Yes.
Oh, how wonderful. And so Tauz wants to continue that. Tell us more, Betty, how you know Tauz.
I think you have given a very nice introduction. First of all, during the time when I was facilitating the exhibition, I was ill. And so it started off, I Sing America, I Too Sing America. And then as we went into Black History Month, we're celebrating the I Too Sing America for Black History Month. But let me say that, during the period of the Harlem Renaissance, it was a time when African American artists, when African American celebrated Harlem, and they celebrated art, because at that time, African American art was not considered something that everyone appreciated. And so it was a time when everybody came together, the musicians, the writers, the visual artists, the musicians, the painters, everyone came together at that time and settled in Harlem. And so there was an artist named Langston Hughes who coined I Too Sing America. And I just want to say something about the poem that he wrote. I too sing America, I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and I eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I will be at the table when the company comes. Nobody dare say to me, eat in the kitchen. Besides, they see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. Langston Hughes, 1902 to 1967. So Columbus has had an explosion of African American history and culture during the year of 2018. So we've seen all kinds of programs that have evolved around the Harlem Renaissance. And thanks to the three entities that put this together, it was Larry James who felt that we should celebrate the Harlem Renaissance, the Columbus Museum of Art, Greater Columbus Arts Council, and a young man that coined everything named Yogi Terrell. And he did an excellent marketing job of putting this throughout the city of Columbus. For the first time, African Americans showed their work in the Short North, and 8 of the galleries there, they had work on the walls of I believe 5 buildings. And so once again, or I should say for the first time, that the works were shown throughout the city. And little did a number of people realize the kind of art that we have. This is just one of, or perhaps the last of the I Too Sing America exhibitions. I also curated an exhibition that is now at the Ross Museum in Delaware. And if you haven't seen that exhibition, I ask you to go there because it's a very, very fine exhibition. And it's titled Yesterday, Today, Tomorrow, which sort of sums up what we have had in a way of a renaissance here in Columbus. That exhibition, Yesterday, is of artists who are deceased, but the artists who came before, Elijah Pierce, Amina Robinson, some of the well-known artists that we have. And we also have tomorrow's artists who are sitting beside me, that's coming along and certainly making a wave in this city in terms of the fine art that they are showing. So with that said, I would like to kind of turn it over to Mary Ellen, or should I turn it over to Tally, so that we can have a conversation.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Tau, tell us.
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. You have moved from, you are moving from commercial in a really challenging way of expressing art, from murals, every possible technological expression, but then you want to build a portfolio. So tell us about that, and you're surrounded by these exquisite works.
Well, since I graduated from high school back in 1996, I've been doing nothing but commercial art. From designing websites to logos, billboards, things of that nature. Making clients happy. And nowadays I want to make myself happy. So I've been painting all my life. My father was an art teacher in the Columbus Public School system. Recently retired, or should I say, kind of retired. He's constantly down here at the court systems trying to help expelled young men, have a fighting chance to, come back and finish their education. he's instilled a lot in myself as far as, you know, confidence and what you want to do with your life, and, you know, just don't settle. So, you know, I think I've settled long enough to make sure, you know, I've stacked up money to pay bills and things of that nature. It's my turn to, you know, do what I want to do. And, you know, I was actually commissioned for a couple other shows to paint people. Mostly love animals. When I was a child, outside of, you know, artwork, I wanted to be a zoologist. Then I found out how much lonely time that was. I love people, so I figured I'd just paint the animals versus, you know, actually try to take care of them. I do a lot of work with young folks also, you know, try to inspire them to, you know, everybody's born an artist, and a lot of people, you know, get told to stray away from that. So, you know, I try to, you know, instill in young folks that, hey, you may have a lot of people around you saying that you can and cannot do this, that, and the other. You know, if you love to paint, keep doing it. You know, if somebody else is saying get a higher paying job, get the higher paying job, but still keep painting, still keep doing what you love to do, writing, what have you. So, you know, those are my motivations, myself and helping out the young folks. So.
How do you help them? I mean, do you teach?
Yes. I sometimes go to them, or they come to me, and, you know, we have small little sessions, technique type deal to build up confidence. You know, people expect to, you know, be able to paint like this just at the drop of a hat, and it's a lot of practice. But more than that, it's a lot of self-confidence. So, yeah, it's like a after-school type deal. I have a 5-year-old who just started school, so, you know, it's like a half a day. So her buddies sometimes come over, and, you know, we do that when, you know, while waiting on mom and dad to come home and stuff like that. So.
How wonderful. What a gift. And your father taught you that way of teaching, huh?
Yes.
Yes. What could you tell us? What were some of the things you learned from your father?
Mostly technique. Unfortunately, my father was a very busy man while I was growing up. If I wasn't with him, I didn't see my folks too much. But, you know, when he was around, you know, he made sure that everything that I did was to the absolute best of my ability, you know, no matter what it was. And, you know, don't get me wrong, you know, my folks were definitely in my life. They're just very busy people. So it was more of a witnessing thing. So, you know, it's more of a leading by example. And, you know, I'm not sure if anybody out here who knows Bob Murphy. He's very entrepreneurial nowadays, trying to start up a all-male boarding school right now. So he's been, you know, in and out of all types of buildings. So I'm sure you'll run across his path and understand the man, you know, without saying too much more as far as, you know, what he instilled in me. His physical stature alone, let alone, you know, his booming voice and, you know, his presence will let you know. But yeah, mostly just technique and keep pushing. Yes, ma'am.
I just was wondering, are you essentially self-taught, or have you had classes, or what?
You know, I got advanced placement art under my belt in high school. I went to University of Cincinnati studying graphic design, but I didn't pay too much attention, honestly. Hence, a lot of the black lines. Yes, I am self-taught. I grew up copying out of comic books, you know, taking that style and redrawing it over and over and over again. And it kind of bled over to now, you know, with the lines. And also, it helps to bring out the subject matter, you know, the people or the animals that I'm painting.
Well, Ta'u, you caught such an amazing soul-felt feeling in both of the women you've painted.
Did my best. They're actually the first portraits I've ever painted in my life.
Oh.
As an adult, anyway. I did a lot when I was a child, but again, you know, I was working on commercial stuff, so. But yeah, it was very. I was very nervous, but you know, like I said, my father told me to, you know, just keep pushing through, and over and over again, you know, with the sketches, I finally figured out the eye placement and whatnot. You know, let alone just picking the photographs of the ladies that I painted, let alone, you know, Martin Luther King. So many to choose from. So, you know, what I could feel I can, reproduce to give that same, glow that they gave in the photograph. I figure the black lines will definitely help with pushing at least the people out to you. A lot of people have a nice time rubbing my paintings to see if, if there's any type of three-dimensionality to it, which I don't mind, by the way. Touch my stuff all you want to. It's coated, so can't do any damage to it.
Well, I wondered if it was a signature of his to paint outside the borders.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yes, I never wanted to get into the fine art game looking like somebody else. So of course, me and my love for animals, I studied for about 6 months before I put my feet in the water. And I didn't find anybody that, there are a lot of surrealists out there, at the kind of cartoony, kind of realistic look, and the whole nine, but nobody was really messing with, the block style of comic book art, the paneling. So I figured, since nobody else was doing it, might as well be me, and hopefully start off a nice campaign of creativity.
So it feels like the background is abstract
Yes.
and the foreground is black and white.
Yes.
Is that your style now?
No, actually, I'm colorblind, partially colorblind. I have a very hard time seeing reds and greens. So, yeah. Thank God for college and my father, a lot of years of color theory, holding blocks of color up to, different swatches dabs of paint. I mixed this, and he said, hey, okay, well, this is actually a plum. It's not, blue. I know, son, you think it's blue, but this is plum. And then, just over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm finally able to kind of be okay. I ask a lot of help. I'd probably say about 6 or 7 people help me per painting. Especially, going to the art store or going shopping for clothing or anything like that, I'm quite nervous. So, yeah, just make sure my colors are correct, I ask. But outside of that, yeah, that was just to pay homage to the fact that I really can't see red and green, and red and green is... I do, but I have to stare at it for about 10, 15 minutes to differentiate between like a scarlet or a crimson, or even if I'm looking at red, because it could be gray. So.
But it is red.
Yes, that's what everybody kept telling me, so I'm confident.
Do you have people help you pick out your paint colors?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do a lot of shopping down here at Dick Blick's off of High Street, and if I don't have somebody with me, I'm pulling one of the people there working to the side, like, hey, I need help, please. Although they're pretty good at asking you as soon as you walk through the door, but yeah, I take that advice seriously.
You mark the paints to see.
So yeah, the words are on there for me, thank God. So, and also there's a thing called a Pantone color sheet. It gives numbers that will never change to specific colors. So with the art store, you can kind of match up with their paint blocks to make sure that, because I do a lot of designing before I did the lady, Martin, do it through my computer after, sketched it out and see where I wanted those colors. And okay, this color code says it's this. So let me go to the store. Hey, lady, please help me. I'm trying to find this color. And she hooks me up, and I'm good to go. It's different, but, I definitely think, I would like to think it makes my stuff unique. Because I have no idea how you guys see it, but to me, that looks green. So to me, so hopefully, y'all sort of seeing the similar-ish thing that I'm seeing.
So does the green look green? No.
Yeah, I'd guess that's forest green, maybe. A dark grass green. Yes.
Well, Betty, you're having known Tau since he was born. You were the director when his father taught art. How does that feel to see this legacy continuing? Speaking of new birth and life.
I think it's wonderful. Oftentimes, we don't think in terms of leaving a legacy, and I'm very much impressed with a number of legacies that I have seen in Columbus. As African Americans, we never thought about leaving a legacy. And as we look around the city, we can see with the wall on the cultural wall on Long Street, which certainly shows a deep legacy that people who lived and worked in the east side of Columbus have left. And so I'm always impressed with self-taught artists, or whether they're taught artists, that they begin to think about leaving a legacy. So when we look around at the art that's on the walls, we see that a number of the subject matter are people. And the thing that I see and understand now is that the artists of today are dealing with their environment. They're dealing with their particular time that is now, and of course that's the whether it's the internet or because I'm not really up on the internet like I should be, but we see as we look around the room, there are different styles of art. And we have, from where I'm sitting, I'm looking straight ahead and I see the jazzy tone. That's an artist that graduated from CCAD, and you can certainly see the influence of what the artist was doing. Next to that, we have a self-taught artist with the three women that she, in later life, has begun to paint. She's begun to paint. And so her work is interesting because she did look at Amina Robinson's work, and early on she had work that kind of illustrated some of the work that Amina was doing. I particularly like the work that's in the middle there because it has all the faces, or many of the faces, during the Harlem Renaissance. And then he has a little square that tells you who the people are, for those who may not know. I'm particularly impressed with the work by Reganon, The Crisis, and Josephine Baker. Is skillfully done. She also is a graduate from CCAD, but it's all pen and ink. And I think that it's just an incredible work of art. And then to the left of that, the artist is a, she has, her work is indicative of those artists who were in jazz, and that was a particular time in our life and in our period of time when jazz was very, very important. The artist, she has a number of divas, and this was during that period of time as well when dealing with the Harlem Renaissance. So she has the photographs there, and she has also some bios on the people that are listed. And of course, it's next to a piece that certainly came before us, wanted to pair a work of art by a new artist with a work by an older artist who was dealing with, the slave time. So I thought that the two went together very well in terms of the color palette, so we can make that comparison.
When exactly was the Harlem Renaissance? 1920s?
It's back in the 1920s, and that was when the artists came together, and just to be together. You know, they came from different parts of the country, and many of them became very, very famous. And the thing today is that our young people do not know anything about the Harlem Renaissance. They don't know about that period of time when great artists came together, whether they were artists who were photographers, like James Van der Sees, who was a great photographer, that many of the photographs that you see today certainly were taken by him. And of course, we have our own photographers here in the city. When you think of Kojo, who was a very prominent photographer, but he also studied about the Harlem Renaissance.
So did it kind of end at going into the 30s and 40s, or just kind of died away
No,
naturally?
it went on for 100 years.
Oh, okay.
100 years. That was a celebration in Columbus, was I Too Sing America, the Harlem Renaissance 100. So they celebrated the 100th year of what was happening in terms of African American art. Does that answer your question?
And the exhibit at the Columbus Museum is wonderful. So great, too, to see Elijah Pierce's work. I'm thinking of the day that I called Elijah Pierce, and I was sharing with Betty, was it 1983, 84, and invited him to do a Conversations and Coffee. And he just wasn't feeling right, so he wasn't able to do it. But when I see his work, all that time becomes timeless. And what a gift his leadership, what a gift your leadership is, Betty. Amazing. And you're part of this legacy, are you not there, Tau?
I'm doing my best.
Aha, yes.
He really doesn't need a mic. But speaking of the Columbus Museum of Art, our own Will Haygood certainly was the person who was the curator of the works that was there at the museum. He traveled throughout the country, and he's quite a storyteller. I've known Will since he was a young man. I supervised him on the playground, so we connected in different ways as well. But it was a wonderful, wonderful program, and the museum also had other programs. They brought in Driscoll, who was a very important African-American historian that talked about his works during the Harlem Renaissance. And so the museum has certainly been on top of having wonderful exhibitions.
And Amina Robinson, I saw her work at the Hilton. It was so beautiful behind the main desk. And I just said, oh, Amina's work. And the woman who was waiting on us, we stayed there for a fundraiser. This is a week ago, Saturday night. And she said, oh, you know Amina? I said, oh, yes, I had her for Conversations and Coffee. I'm thinking of the wonderful way to connect with artists that we have here. In your conversation, in hers, in Elijah, so many. And her works are in the Hilton downtown. And someone has put them all around, and it's just brings such life to that place.
And I'd like to say that, thanks to Barbara Nicholson, who was the former director at the King Arts Complex, She sits on the board for the convention center as well as the Hilton, which is a part of it. It was at her inspiration that she wanted to have African American artists in the center to have original works, because when you look at hotels, there's always the photographs that are either flowers or what have you. And if we're to become the city that we say that we are, then I think it's incumbent upon us to have good work. And so not only is the work of African Americans in the Hilton, but as well as in the convention center. And certainly Amina Robinson was a person that, golly, and I've known her since she was a youngster, so to speak. And she worked for the Recreation and Parks Department at one time as well, and certainly celebrated many aspiring artists that have come along that are doing great things. Yes.
I love this quilt, While Women Don't Get the Blues. I also like the bumper sticker, While Women, or what is it, something like, well-tamed women never are famous.
Right.
Well-behaved women are never famous.
I think that's good too, right. She couldn't be here for our opening, but I'm certain that she will come back at another time, and perhaps when we have the next coffee and conversations, that she could be a person. The large pieces that are by an African artist, and I thought that they were so stunning that to be put in the exhibition. She is a graduate student and a Fulbright person at Ohio State, and certainly the works that you see, they just stand out. Looks like they could pop off the page, so to speak.
Betty, where is your jewelry? Have you given it all away, or have you enjoyed some of it for you?
Well, I've enjoyed some of it for me, and occasionally I wear my jewelry. And when we had the program here, when Barbara Nicholson and I had, we shared our collection, and the jewelry was in, some jewelry was in the collection.
Did you make yours?
No, I didn't.
And you were teaching the jewelry classes with when you were with the Recreation and Parks? You were an administrator then, huh?
Yes. More or less, I was the director of several recreation centers, going back to before your time. Remember, I mentioned Nick Barrick. Does anyone remember Nick Barrick?
Before Mel Dodge?
He was before Mel Dodge. So I go back a long time when there were only 7 recreation centers. So now you see how far we have come, and presently I sit on the board as a commissioner for the Recreation and Parks Department. So I've come full circle, and it's certainly a pleasure to have worked with the department. I've often said that the best years of my life was working for Recreation and Parks, simply because you saw your rewards. You saw what you were able to do with young people, like with Tao, his father, who worked for the department. And at the time, we certainly were connected. We were all connected to one another, and it's a good feeling being here in this center. Just because I remember when this center began, so So it's been a long time since we've worked together. Yes.
Okay, you know, these three big canvases, are those the ones you were saying they pop out?
Yes.
Did that artist use like a projector and put it up there so it was all proportioned? To get that big, you know, like look at a projector, shine it up there, and then draw it on the canvas?
I don't know. I don't think so. No. Yeah. I just think that that's her style. It's like, you know, any other style that the artist may have. So I think that she just start painting.
So are you a working artist now?
Sure.
Are you a working artist now?
Oh, yes.
Question,
I
are
haven't
you a
had
working artist now?
I haven't had a job since 2003. I started my company back July 17th of 2000, and, you know, worked for somebody until I could, you know, build up a big enough clientele to say, I'm leaving y'all, and now I work for myself.
Are those oils or acrylic?
They're acrylic. I don't have patience for oil. I have so much to do. You know, I build a lot of picture frames for other artists. I make furniture. I have 6 children. So, you know, I need things to be in like a clockwork measure. Bessie, hours-wise, was probably about 8.
Now, what was the question, Jean? What was that?
I asked how long it took him to do one painting.
Oh, and your
And it's
answer
8 hours.
was?
About 8 hours
8 hours.
over 3 days. Yeah, I work with a hair dryer. So yeah, to get the blending technique down, you know, I brush it on there real quick, hair dryer. Brush it on real quick, hair dryer. You know, because I just don't like waiting. You know, oil paint takes from 2 to a month, 2 weeks to a month. I don't have that to do.
Well, as we come to closure, tell us what the children teach you. Taya, what do they teach you?
They teach me a lot of patience. But not only that, they reaffirm to have a lack of fear. I try to do something every day that scares me or that puts me out of my place, something I'm not used to. You know, children, naturally, you know, most fears are taught. So, you know, I think I read a study that said that babies are afraid of 2 things, and that's things coming at them really fast and loud noises. Outside of that, you know, my 5-year-old is always saying, Daddy, come on, let's go on the roof. Like, sure, when it gets warm because there's snow up there. She doesn't care. So, you know, stuff like that, you know, gives me a nice chuckle and, you know, reminds me that, you know, the world isn't as serious as it appears to be. Although my oldest is 21, and that's a different story.
Are they autistic, any of your children?
All of them. I'm very proud to say. I'm doing my best to, you know, keep the legacy of artisticness going. My oldest is a stylist. My 19-year-old is, she kind of bounces back and forth between being a chef and a baker. Then it's down to my 5-year-old. She's turning into a musician. You know, but of course, you know, I let them choose whatever the heck they want to do and just, you know, pat them on the butt, be there for them. But, you know, then I have real little itty-bitty ones, and, you know, I'm just trying to get them to talk.
And Betty, you spent time, quite a bit of time, teaching children art.
Yes, as I said, some of my fondest years was working in recreation and parks. 30 years working in different quadrants of the city, certainly as a supervisor, supervising young people to go out and teach art, particularly on the playgrounds. And then, of course, when I went to the King Arts Complex, I developed all the programs there. programs that are still in existence. Work with many of the art. The first persons that worked with me were people that I got out of recreation and parks. So I knew they knew me. They knew my standard of teaching, and I think that they certainly did a wonderful job. They were there for many years, and so yes, teaching is very important. But not only did we teach the skills of the subject matter, but we were the parent. We were everything, you know, to that child, and so I get my rewards now when they come up to me and said, "I don't remember. I remember what you taught me. I didn't understand it then, but I understand it now that I have children." So what a great reward to have when they can say that to you.
Oh, and we thank you for your gift and your reward of Renaissance. Wonderful. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Tony. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.